Hey everyone, welcome to phase two of our process identification and improvement project. First off, I just want to say thank you so much for your efforts towards the RACI over the last week or so. Tom was able to share a copy of it with me, and it's just been awesome to see the additions and the tasks that are listed in there. Quite a few of you have a pretty robust sheet already. I think there's probably some opportunity to keep adding to that as you go through your workday and think of other tasks as you go. But we're off to a really awesome start, and so I don't want to pump the brakes at all. I want to keep this momentum going and start to build documentation for all of the things that you do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so for the purposes of today, we will be looking at my personal RACI, which, as you can tell, is not super built out, but it's just here as an example, like you all saw at the beginning. So we're just going to keep on that path. But what we're basically building here, I want to add a little bit about the why we're building this out the way that we are. One, what this RACI is doing, especially with each of you having your own sheet within the document, is we're creating one source of truth, meaning that everything that's done at first choice should be in here somewhere. So that again, if somebody new comes on board, if someone is backfilling for somebody, that we are able to always come in here and know what that person does, as well as what we're going to start to build is how to do some of those things. So think of this as kind of building out our directory or table of contents that we'll utilize again for those times when we need to know how someone else does something. So we'll go ahead and look at, so this first task is the one that I have built out. Now it's going to seem like a really simple one, but I purposefully did that. So I'm going to jump over to the process document itself. And the process that I went ahead and built out was, again, a simple one that I do all the time, though, and that I think probably a lot of you do as well, is create a calendar invite. When we meet with our clients and customers, it's kind of an essential piece. And so I thought, well, this seems somewhat fitting. So the other piece of it is because we're all so familiar with doing this, it can often feel like a really easy thing. And what I want to show you is that this process document for creating just one simple little Google Calendar invite is ten to 11 steps long. And so the reason for that is because how I want you to think about these process documents is really taking yourself out of your skin, if you will, and thinking about if I dropped someone at my computer today, maybe they didn't know Google well, or they don't know Outlook or Box well, how can I help navigate them to get where they need to go? So for this example, I didn't just start, with the screen being the Google Calendar. I wanted to take a step back and say, okay, how do you even get to the Google Calendar? So in this example, again, you'll go to by logging into your Google email address, and I gave them the link on where to go to do that. So if someone were to actually follow this process, they'd click on that link and would be able to log into their Google email address. Once the email is open, click on the sandwich bar in the upper right-hand corner. I have learned sandwich bars can look like a million different things. And if we ever have that instance, I always err on the side of including a screenshot than not, just because it provides a really nice visual for what exactly you want them to do. So here we can see our sandwich bar is lit up, as well as the calendar section here is lit up, which is exactly where we would want someone to go if they were following this process. The other thing I like to do is if there's a spot where it seems fairly basic, but I want someone to click on a button that says a certain word, I'll include quotations so that they know exactly what the button will be named and there's really no confusion around that. The other thing that I like to include in these process documents, again, is the screenshots, but sometimes there's two ways of doing things. So for this example here, when I think about creating a Google Calendar invite, there are times where maybe I'm creating a Google Calendar invite for myself, like I just need a reminder for something, or my dog needs to go to the vet and this is just for me and it's super basic. Well, that in this process example is option one. So they'll, utilize the little pop-up that populates, they're going to be able to type in some very basic information and click save. But I know that there's often times too where you want to add more detail, or maybe you need to look at multiple calendars as you're working with multiple stakeholders in creating a meeting. I wanted to make sure that somebody would be able to come in here, add other calendars to the soon to be meeting invite, and would be able to schedule based on everyone's availability. So it is okay for your processes to go two different ways. We just want to make sure we highlight that we're going two separate routes and that it's okay to do either of those things. When I create some of these screenshots too, I am not sure if you guys might already be using a specific snipping tool, but I like to use, it's literally just, I don't have a Mac, I have a Windows, and it's literally just called Snipping Tool. And it's not popping up on a screen share because it's one of those kind of like private settings. But the cool part about it is that it makes it really easy to take little screenshots of certain sections of your screen. And then it also lets you manipulate and highlight and mark up the screenshot. So it was really easy for me. Within a couple of seconds, I was able to take a screenshot of this window here and then add to the highlighted sections where someone would actually need to fill in the information. So again, it just makes it very clear what it is we're asking someone to do and where they need to do it. Now, again, I created this as a example so that you could see what a process document looks like. And again, I understand that this is in Google, but what my thought is you can recreate this in Box. So we should in we should have the RACI saved in kind of a high level area, which I think, Sue, maybe you had done that in an area where there's some other weekly kind of agendas and documents. But then coupled with that, we should create a folder. We can do it by person, or we could do it just overall where all of these individual process documents live. I just don't want it to clutter up other spaces, but a lot of the way that this is laid out, my hope is that you can do this the exact same way in Box. So for this example with Google, what I would do is just go ahead and copy and paste this URL and then go back to my RACI and click this to go ahead and paste this so it's a URL. So again, if someone's covering for me, Amanda, and they say, oh, I need to schedule a meeting invite. I've never done that before. How do I do it? They can go ahead, click here, click on this process document, and it should populate for them. I think in Box and some of the other SharePoint type sites, instead of it being a URL, you'll just be able to say copy link and do it basically the same way. But no, that's kind of how that would happen. The other piece, I want to go back quickly to this process documentation. I think maybe I jumped ahead here, but I want to just go back again and reiterate the importance of us really thinking through how we do things and thinking through it thoroughly, because it's really going to help when somebody again new joins the team or someone needs to do part of your role. So for example here, now I didn't build this out in an entirety because again it's an example, but I was thinking to myself, what else would I include here if I truly was building out a full process document? And so I was thinking about, what if someone scheduled a meeting and then needed to reschedule it? How would they go about doing that? Maybe a new stakeholder was invited to a meeting and someone said, hey, Amanda, can you throw them on the calendar invite? If I've never done that before, how do I do that? And then also, what if I needed to, extend the meeting time? So just thinking through those what ifs of things that might happen is really important too. And we can even create, like a directory of sorts within, or a table of contents within these process documents at the top to include those things if we feel like the process document is getting really long. Otherwise, headers work just fine too. So you'll find your rhythm and what works for you. But I just wanted to call that out as we think about, again, these just being as robust as possible. I think too, as we're building out, it's okay if you want to, if these thoughts kind of come to you afterwards, to create a little to-do list for yourself at the end, maybe saying, oh, yesterday I had this thought, let me at least jot it in here so that I know to come back to it. So a lot of different ways you can go about it, but just a couple of suggestions. The last thing I wanted to say before I let you all go is Tom shared with me this office procedures doc, which is awesome. I took a peek through it. Everything is super organized, highlighted by name and who's doing what, which is awesome. Because we have the RACI now, and that is going to be our source of truth, I want to encourage you all to take a peek at this and make sure that all of the tasks that live here are now also reflected on your RACI. So it's important just to make sure that, again, we have everything living in one place. Because we are somewhat working in a little bit of different systems, I will make sure to download copies of everything that I showed you today and include them on the email so that you have access to all of this. If you have any questions, though, along the way, want to connect by phone and chat through something, please let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to getting this second piece of our process optimization up and running. So that is, we bring newcomers onto the team, or we, start to cross train and teach each other about our roles, that it's really clear as to what that looks like. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.